There is no good news for the Liberals anywhere in this latest polling from Ipsos, provided exclusively to Global News. The country is tired of Justin Trudeau, tired of his government, and were an election to be held today, Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives would almost certainly win a majority.
An in-depth look at how a leader reacts to real challenges is always eye-opening. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is facing a particularly difficult time that places him under the weight of political and personal reality. The constant pressure, the questioning of his decisions, and the palpable consequences of his policies generate a tense climate that can hardly be ignored. Faced with this situation, we see how Trudeau, far from the controlled and composite image he projects at public events, shows a human vulnerability that connects him with the difficulties that millions are going through. The recent challenges Trudeau has faced not only affect his image in the public eye, but also impact his leadership. His reaction is a sign of the emotional burden of being the main figure in such a polarized and complex context. The expectations on his shoulders are enormous, and his responses to these pressures speak to the complexity of handling the internal and external demands that come with the role of Prime Minister. At the same time, many question his ability to move forward amid an ever-changing political landscape. This moment is a reminder of how even the strongest and most experienced power figures can find themselves in situations where the weight of their decisions becomes apparent. As the current circumstances reveal more obstacles, Trudeau is caught in a web of criticism, both from his opponents and those who once supported him. Decisions that once seemed certain are now under intense scrutiny, and public perception of his leadership appears to be faltering. This type of pressure is not something that anyone can easily bear, and in their case, the emotional exhaustion begins to be visible. The issues he faces are not only domestic. Canada is in a position where its international relations are also under the magnifying glass.
I've never seen a number that high for a prime minister, probably since Brian Mulroney. Back in 91, 92, and that's what this really reminds me of.
From economic issues to civil rights management and immigration policies, every decision has a direct impact on the lives of millions of people, and every mistake is magnified. This is not just a test of political endurance, but an assessment of their ability to adapt and respond in times of adversity. In addition, Trudeau faces the judgment of a public that demands transparency and tangible results. The expectation that he will maintain an unflappable image is shattered when the internal struggles he faces are exposed. This reminds everyone that behind the political figure there is a human being who, like anyone else, is affected by criticism and challenges. The wear and tear of recent times highlights a common dilemma among modern leaders: how to balance public image with personal reality. Trudeau, like many others in his position, is at a crossroads where he must decide whether to stay the course or adjust his policies to try to regain the trust of those who have lost faith in his leadership. Without a doubt, this moment is a test of character, a reminder that leadership is much more than making decisions. It is knowing how to face the consequences of each of them. The situation facing Trudeau is also a reflection of the divisions that cross Canadian society. Demands from different sectors, from those seeking deep reforms in social policies to those who want a more conservative approach to economic issues, are piling up on his desk, increasing the pressure to find solutions that seem satisfactory to all. However, the challenge is enormous: how to balance these opposing forces without alienating a large part of the population. On a personal level, these moments of vulnerability expose human limitations in the face of the weight of public responsibility.
News tonight over questions about the Prime Minister's leadership from within.
For many, seeing Trudeau in this situation is a reminder that leaders are not infallible. The expectation of maintaining a strong and composed image crumbles when reality shows the complexity of the decisions they face. This fragility is not always allowed in the political arena, but at times like these, the connection between the leader and his country stands out. The criticism he faces becomes even sharper when his leadership is compared to that of other countries. The pressure to keep up with international leaders and meet global commitments becomes another layer of tension, especially in a context where the balance between the economy, the environment, and social cohesion is increasingly delicate. Any mistake in its decisions could have repercussions not only in Canada, but also in its reputation globally.
We're not just going to let $400 million of corruption be swept under the rug so Justin Trudeau can get on with his day.
Through it all, Trudeau is moving forward, trying to reconnect with a vision of leadership that inspires confidence amid uncertainty. This path is not easy and is full of obstacles that only time will tell if you will be able to overcome. The lesson from this episode is clear. True leadership is not only defined by achievement, but by the ability to resist and adapt in the face of adversity, to learn from mistakes, and to maintain integrity in the midst of chaos. This is a watershed moment, one in which Trudeau must redefine his legacy and decide what direction he will take, knowing that the future of his political career and largely the stability of the country depend on the decisions he makes in this period of crisis. As Trudeau tries to keep his composure, he faces a reality where past promises resurface and unfulfilled expectations are transformed into blunt criticism. The perception of those who once supported him has changed, and the weight of unfulfilled promises is being felt with intensity. At times like these, words of encouragement and inspirational speeches are not enough. Concrete actions are required to restore confidence and demonstrate that it is capable of leading in a time of great uncertainty. Opposition voices seize on every misstep to question not only his current decisions, but the very basis of his leadership. For his critics, this is the moment that reveals his true ability to govern, a scenario in which he cannot hide behind the popularity he once had. Trudeau is required to make firm decisions and to show that he still possesses the vision and determination necessary to guide his country through times of difficulty. At the same time, the emotional impact he faces becomes a point of connection with the audience. Some see it as a sign of humanity, a sign that the weight of decisions is real and deeply affects those who make them. However, others interpret this vulnerability as a sign of weakness, questioning whether she possesses the resilience to move forward. This dilemma is a reflection of the reality that many leaders live. The constant public evaluation where any display of emotion can be seen as a strength or a vulnerability that exposes them to more attacks. The situation raises profound questions about the kind of leadership Canada needs right now. Trudeau must decide whether to adapt to new social demands or stand firm in his convictions, even if they are unpopular. This is a moment when every step counts, where every decision and every statement is scrutinized not only by his political opponents, but by an entire nation that awaits clear direction. At this critical point, Trudeau's ability to navigate between public pressure and his personal ideals will determine not only the course of his tenure, but the trust society places in his institutions and his leaders. Every day, every decision makes the difference between a leadership that survives the storm or one that vanishes under its own weight.
I think the people that want to support the Prime Minister are getting really tired of waiting for a sign.
Trudeau is at a stage where politics is no longer a mere matter of diplomacy and rhetoric. It has become a test of endurance, where the leader is measured both by his ability to adapt and by his emotional strength. His supporters and detractors are closely watching his every move, watching for any signs that he can turn things around or that his leadership has reached a point of no return. The attrition has also affected his relationships with other leaders within his own party. Internal loyalty is being tested, and some party members are beginning to question whether his leadership is the best choice to guide Canada through the challenges ahead. The possibility of internal divisions threatens to fracture the unity that once represented his figure, and this conflict adds another layer of complexity to an already complicated landscape. In times of crisis, leaders often turn to their closest advisors and collaborators for advice and support. But in this situation, even the most experienced voices within his circle seem to waver, aware that any strategy could prove insufficient. This is not just a political crisis, it's an in-depth examination of your decisions and ultimately your ability to take bold action when it's needed most.